People think and say what they see and hear, so we're going to give you something else to hear and see. Welcome to the Daily Lie of Omission, where we deliver the truth the MSM will never tell you. Today, we'll start with that shiny spinning watch that has everyone mesmerized, the 2016 presidential election, as Trump keeps his mouth to himself and rises, while Hillary wears blue sunglasses and succumbs to Parkinson's disease. Then we'll follow up on our last episode on the crash of 2016 with the tan one, Christine Legard, ruling princess of the IMF, that's International Monetary Fund, who has confirmed their plan to create debt from nothing to bail out the looming crash of 2016. We'll close out this report with an examination of the strategic moves ISIS is making as its Euphrates front in Syria and Iraq collapses, because they're not done yet. And you'll want to know where they're going and who is supporting ISIS and why, because the only place you're going to hear the truth is right here on the Daily Lie of Omission. Beginning with the precept of a crash of 2016, there is no way a Democrat is going to win the White House, as the party in power almost always goes down with the markets. And this year, with the crash, it's not going to be an exception. But still, this is the craziest election we've had in 227 years. So I want to do a review anyway, because our presidential elections are nothing but a distraction to keep American people unaware of those running for the People's Congress. So, we start with HRC, Hillary Rodham Clinton, and her obvious affliction with Parkinson's disease, which was put on national display on 9/11 when Hillary left the dais after 90 minutes on a relatively cool day, sans any symptoms of walking or talking pneumonia. Between it and the other lie of dehydration, we find the truth in this report from Dr. Ted Knoll of VidZet. The first tip-off of Parkinson's is the blue attitude sunglasses Hillary is sporting, which is often used in Parkinson's victims and has something to do with reducing white light that triggers the optic nerve that sets off a chain that results in seizure, or with Parkinson's disease, a freeze up of muscle control, which is what we saw in Hillary on 9/11. What is more telling is this photo of Hillary's doctor at her side in 9/11, Ms. Dr. Bardak, who is shown here performing a simple nerve test of squeeze my hand, and is soon after shown here holding Hillary up from tipping over while she's supported by a concrete bollard, her right leg stiff, knee locked in order to keep her from falling as she awaits her van. Then as the Secret Service guides her to the van, she obviously collapses, having lost all motor control over her body, what is known as Parkinson's disease, again as a freeze up. She was then spirited away to her daughter Chelsea's $11 million apartment that occupies an entire floor in the Whitman building at 21 East 26th Street, 4th floor in New York City, which is also the very same address of MetroCare Home Services, Inc., whose address is also the Whitman building, 21 East 26th Street, 4th floor, New York City. Apparently, Chelsea's digs doubles as a medical facility, so Hillary didn't have to go to a hospital where questions would be raised. Clintons have their own private hospital clinic. Gee, I wonder how the Clinton Foundation paid for that. Yeah. Allegedly, Hillary was then given a shot of levodopa, a common drug used to treat Parkinson's patients when they lose control of their muscle functions in a freeze-up. Most patients recover in approximately 20 minutes, which fits the time frame of Hillary's arrival at Chelsea's hospital till she emerged to wave to the crowd. Yeah, we're not going to comment on allegations that the woman seen in the photos is a body double of Hillary, but there are no Secret Service agents immediately surrounding her, as they normally would if she were a major candidate for El Presidente of America. Unless, of course, said Kennedy is not before the public, but still recuperating in a private Clinton medical facility on the 4th floor of the Whitman building at 21 East 26th Street, New York City. And this isn't the first time we've seen Hillary with a doctor nearby, nor is it the first time someone has been nearby with an injectable pen, as shown in the series of photos of Hillary with Dr. Oludatun Akunola, a neurologist seen here by Hillary's side during an appearance, and again walking to the right of Bill and Hillary backstage at the Wells Fargo Center during the DNC convention in July. Oh, wait a second. What's that in Dr. Nola's left hand? Wait. Closer? Closer? Why, that looks just like a... That, my friends, is a diazepam auto-injector and used for people suffering from acute repetitive seizures, which can occur when a patient is under stress, speaking to a crowd under bright lights and especially flashing lights like flashbulbs. She almost went under while speaking during the convention, and this is why Hillary hasn't done a press conference in 300 days. She can't. And if you're wondering how she's going to make it through a series of 3 1.5-hour public debates with the Donald, well, you're asking the right question. You know, after Labor Day, the campaign trail gets grueling, stressful, and there's no way Hillary can take it. That's why she disappeared after the convention. And what's happened since? Hillary has canceled appearances on the West Coast to recover from pneumonia? Really? Now, the Clintons wouldn't be lying to us again, would they? Again? Would they do that? Well, you're damn right they would. I mean, you're talking about people who no longer have the ability to differentiate between a lie and the truth, as their lying habits have become what is referred to as congenital, or, in the parlance of straight talk, compulsive liars. While Hillary probably doesn't have full-blown Parkinson's yet, she most certainly has what is called vascular Lewy body dementia, IMO. Vascular dementia is overlapped by a process called Lewy body dementia, which is basically a mixture of Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Does anyone wonder why Hillary has a staff neurologist like Dr. Ukunola to follow around with a diazepam pen? And when he attracted too much attention, was replaced with a lady doctor who can carry the needles in her purse, like Dr. Bartek. When you have a neurovascular issue like dysphagia, which is a difficulty in swallowing, which is what is causing Hillary to cough, the seizures made clear by the presence of the diazepam pen and weakness on display at 9/11 Memorial are all really, really bad signs. In fact, Hillary is the ticking time bomb, just waiting to have a major debilitating stroke. So Hillary's toast, with vegetables. And if she can't get out and campaign, she can't remain erect and lucid during an hour and a half public debate, even if she's wearing blue-tinted shades. She can't get elected. If she can't get elected, what does the DNC do? Well, they have to find another candidate. It isn't going to be Tom Keene. No way. He'd lose worse than Hillary. Of course, there's always Joe Biden, and why not? Joe's been the DNC's backup guy all along. But then who wants to be captain of the ship USS Titanic America for the next 4 years and go down with the ship? Then there's always Bernie. You know him, Bernie. Bernie's sellout, who received a windfall from his wife's inheritance after Uncle Sugar died and they purchased a $500,000 estate on Lake Champlain and a private jet. Wow. Talk about marrying well. I wonder when Bernie is going to hit the Hillary Clinton $600,000 speech-giving tour. What's it all add up to? Well, let's see. The DNC, minus Hillary, add a fraction of Joe Biden, a touch out of the time, and cancel one whole Bernie, and you've got one. My money's on Joe, as Bernie has taken the payoff and retired. Now, Trump. I mean, at this point, I don't think the DNC can beat Trump, even with the help of Diebold and the Department of Homeland Security. And what's Trump been doing? Well, he's been keeping his mouth shut. That is an accomplishment in of itself, and a very effective one. You know, I had a conversation with a good friend over the weekend. I mean, this guy is smart. He's conservative, active in the Republican Party, an attorney who used to be a major advocate of the Bill of Rights. Well, at least until he told me he preferred the thief to the joker, Hillary being the thief and Trump being the joker. And he might be right. But to my surprise, I let him drag me into the very illusionary argument over the selection process of our presidential elections. The illusion being we Americans are given a choice that's really a pre-selection of vetted candidates for president. If you find this disturbing, you're wrong, because it's very disturbing. And this election is even weirder than you can imagine, because instead of choosing from a selection of one of two candidates our ruling elite or deep state have agreed upon, there seems to be a rift that has formed within the nebulous ruling members of America's deep state. Now, before every doubting Thomas rails against me by accusing me of claiming another CIA-inspired term from the 60s of a conspiracy theory, let me digress for a moment and point out that whether you believe in a conspiracy theory of elites ruling America on purpose, and through their mismanagement destroying America, or whether you believe it's really the natural progression found in the cyclical tail end of a tyrannical state like America and the evolutionary mismanagement that comes with an overripe economic system, the result is the same. And the fact remains that America's ship of state is listing precariously in a large bucket of expletive deleted and is, and will continue to take on the aforementioned expletive now deleted until America slips beneath the waves of deleted expletives. It's the Cubbies year. We're doomed. The entire campaign is getting really, really weird. It is the opinion of the Daily Lie of Omission that there is a rift in America's deep state between those who want to go to war, led by private sector neocons, the military-industrial complex, AIPAC, and the too-big-to-fail banks that need a war to pay for their crimes. And in the other corner, a global mafia that doesn't want to blow up the world in its entirety. I see a schism in our ruling deep state between domestic American superiority and a much older, ancient European ruling establishment. Clearly, while the Clintons are married to the domestic alliance of political America, Trump is from the outside traditional political establishment. Yet he is clearly bound to a Rothschild's connection that reaches back to the dark underbelly of the CIA and Israel's Mossad. Criminal activities after World War II. It probably goes back much further than that. In fact, it does. But that's a whole nother story, and everyone would accuse me of being a heretic. So we won't go there right now. To build big in New York City, you have to make amends to serious people, and Trump was born into it. But his real step into the larger circus was in his purchase of Resorts International from the estate of a CIA strawman frontman. Resorts International was a holdover from the grand money laundering from the days of the CIA and Mossad used to wash their illicit profits from any number of deals made in the post-war era from the 1950s forward to the 1970s when black ops came under pressure from the church investigations of the CIA and things had to cool down. The Rothschilds held an interest in the Resorts International. It was the Rothschilds who financed Trump's purchase. Further, it was the Rothschild banking empire that bailed Trump out in the 1980s when Resorts International came under bankruptcy pressure during the RTC savings and loan scandals. That refinancing was handled by Wilbur L. Ross Jr., New York's based Rothschild representative in America and early Trump supporter. This, along with Donald Trump's endless donations to politicians of every stripe, comprises his relationship with the ruling elites that he says he was once a part of. And so he knows how they work. But now, he is apparently not one of them anymore. But you know what? Everything I've ever taken note of tells me that the only way you can leave them, once you become one of them, is feet first. And last I looked, Trump is still standing tall and has not succumbed to either Parkinson's, nor lead poisoning, nor a plane crash. But that can change. That can change. So Trump has made some brilliant moves, bringing in former Goldman Sachs guys who are massaging an acceptable Trump into the salons of ruling America. A task made all the easier by Hillary's endless missteps that are certain to brew controversy with Bernie and Biden. It's like the Democrats have become the Republicans and vice versa. Usually it's the Republicans that have a lackluster candidate because it's their turn and the Democrats have the populist candidate. But now the Democrats have paid her dues for a candidate, and the Republicans have the populist. Go figure. Like I said in the last broadcast, it's the year of the Cubbies, and it's the end of the world as we know it. The point of all this is that our presidential elections are an illusion, a distraction to keep Americans believing in a system that is eviscerating us one day at a time, distracting us from the criminal element of sociopaths that infest our Congress. Yeah, I was dragged into a pointless argument about who is the best choice for El Presidente of the United States that nobody wants. It wasn't a question of what was best for America, but what was going to be the least worst. Or as my esteemed colleague referred to, the Joker and the Thief. It's a pointless argument, and there is no good result. It's a variation of doublespeak, of half the truth and all the lie. Sure, I hope Donald comes through and leads America to greatness again, but it was the state of liberty that set America on its course to greatness, and I'm not sure Trump can refuse himself the powers that have unconstitutionally accrued to the presidency over the past 50, and most certainly, more so the past 25 years. Yeah, we don't have that question with Her Majesty HRC. She's going to grab all the power she can and then some. Being surrounded by a Praetorian Guard, I can only imagine it's getting worse as her health deteriorates. So I find myself defending Trump, and that's what our rulers want us to do, because then we're not looking at the people that want to get elected to the biggest enabler of them all, the People's Congress, which is so far away from the people today they need a diversion in order to get reelected, stay in office so they can repeat the atrocities against the nation. Elect a new Congress provides a voter's litmus test whose only purpose is to change America from a government that rules over the people to an America where the people rule over their government. And you can read about liberty legislation at scienceofliberty.us. Did you know that a big part of England's Brexit was passed because Brussels was writing 25% of England's laws? Well, that, and they voted by hand, counted paper ballots, and there's no Diebold. Do you know that 90% of our laws in America are not written by Congress today, but by the agencies of the executive branch? Shown here on this chart. The truth is, we have no Constitution, and by this metric, 90% of our personal freedom has been compromised because we live under those 90% of our laws, as our Congress has become a cabal of pimps, whores, and grocery clerks. You want to know what's wrong with America? I just told you. That's why you tune into the Daily Lie of Omission. Now tell your friends. We Americans need to focus our energies completely to elect a new Congress using liberty legislation's 4 bills before Congress today, which, if passed, denies the mechanisms ruling elites require to manipulate the powers of Congress and rule over us. Pass these 4 bills and all the powers of Congress go back to the Congress where they constitutionally belong. Conversely, by changing the operating model of government and monetary policy endemic to a state of liberty, we create the mechanisms that force the decision-making powers back into the collective and quantitative direction of the American people. It's an amazing, amazing thing, a state of liberty. You want change? Then you have to change the system. That changes everything. Pick your problem in government and society. Not one solution will work. And it's like that for every problem in our world today. You can't solve one problem at a time. We have to solve them all at the same time because they all have the same solution. A state of liberty. You can read about liberty legislation again at scienceofliberty.us, and I encourage you to do so and tell your friends. Then jump on every candidate for Congress and find out who supports liberty legislation. Those who say yes get our vote and gets elected to Congress. Those who say anything else just told you no, and you don't vote for them. Because Congress is we the people's place in government, and we need to take it back. Helicopter money is about all that's left in the central bank's bags of tricks. Pay off the people and let the inflation wash all your debts away in a tsunami of electronic money. And Christine Legard has staked out her role and scope of powers the IMF is going to exercise under the supervision of the nation of... There's no nation? There is no nation! Not for the IMF. Welcome to the one global nation where that isn't anywhere but powers all power. This is the precise remedy the Daily Lie of Omission reported last week in the crash of 2016 that our globalist ruling elite are going to hoist on America. So it's not a surprise that the very tan Christine Legard, chair of the IMF, has admonished the ruling globalists for ignoring the great unwashed common people for too long, demanding they reform themselves and include the general population they have been forcing to rebellion. And Christine will provide more, a lot more of the debt bonds that caused the problem in the first place. And that's now the solution. And it's time to double down, quadruple down, a full-blown downhill monetary explosion, debt with SDR special drawing rights that will sink the dollar and make the world safe for the criminally insane bankers. It's a very formula that has brought the world to the brink, to its knees. And Christine Legard is going to make more of the same and confirms our greatest fears. You probably haven't given too much thought to what is happening to ISIS in the Syria-Iraqi-Euphrates war. All America has been told is the U.S. and maybe Russia are winning and ISIS is on the ropes. Yet nothing could be further from the truth as reported this week in the left-wing EMAG counterpunch that reports ISIS has been evacuating the Syrian battlefield for over a year, expanding into Europe and across North Africa. This much counterpunch got right. Then their report wandered away from what is actually going on. Not a surprise, because of the sophisticated propaganda coming out of Saudi Arabia, is noted here in this phony baloney story in Politico on the kingdom's support of Sunni terrorism, all due to their quarrel with Abdul Nasser in the 1950s through to their fear of Iran today, which is nothing but a fine example of the continuing cover-up of Saudi Arabia's continuing support of ISIS and al-Qaeda, found in the yellow journalistic-type propaganda of rags like Politico. Because this article has nothing to do with Saudi objectives for the past 40 years, much less the past 70 years, whose real purpose is to reclaim the entire Ottoman Empire for Islamic Wahhabi Satanism, prior to taking over the entire world, of course. You know, ISIS has been around for a long time, just with a different name and a natural progression of Saudi Arabian foreign policy since 1744. Their first jihad warrior force of fanatics was wiped out in the early 1800s. This Wahhabi Sunni force was then reformed in 1912 by Ibn Saud in order to expand the original designs of the first Saudi state of 1744, but he named it the Ikhwan. That was the forerunner of al-Qaeda, ISIS, that he used to conquer the Hajj from the Hussein family after World War I, with the objective being to reclaim the former Ottoman Empire for a new Wahhabi empire. It's still the same today. But by the late 1920s, the Ikhwan, having conquered the Hajj, turned itself towards the Gulf regions, bringing jihad to areas already under Ibn Saud's control as they begin to spin completely out of control. As the murder and extortion was horrific, and Ibn Saud's solution was to call the Ikhwan to a meeting in 1927 where he had them all machine gunned down a la Al Capone, only 100 times greater. The truth is that ISIS al-Qaeda is the rebirth of the Saudi vehicle to advance the original Wahhabi aims of dominion over the late Ottoman Empire as a springboard to world domination. It's no surprise then that Saudi Arabia has found in the psychopaths ruling America and big oil a willing power and a never-ending quest for power and money, emanating from the high desert plains of Arabia around the Najd, which the Prophet Muhammad accurately called the Horn of Satan. Naturally, the full explanation is a bit more complex than this, and I cover it thoroughly in my last chapter of my book, The Science of Liberty, American Reformation. Still, needless to say, this is what ISIS is up to as they are chased out of the empty wastelands of Syria, Iraq, and dispersed unto the world, all financed, aided, and abetted by our alleged allies, Saudi Arabia. What is just as interesting is the allegedly recent inroads between Israel and Saudi Arabia, which in reality is just a continuation of long and ancient alliance between Israel's ruling elites and the Wahhabi state. I'm sure I'll catch hell for reporting this reality, but this is the fact. The government ruling Israel is no more popular than the government that rules America today. And just as in America, our government is the greatest threat to the American people, so is the current government of Israel. It, too, is the greatest threat to the Israeli people. Now, this concludes this episode of the Daily Lie of Omission. Our next report will focus on the ecumenical deceit emanating from Jerusalem and Pope Francis' determination to destroy Christianity and establish a one-world global religion. If you want to know about revolutions and the state of liberty, I would encourage you to watch the third volume of Daily Lie of Omission on YouTube under William W.M. W. Faywell. In fact, watch them all. Their URLs are posted on the blog page at electanewcongress.com and scienceofliberty.us, where you can also read for free all about the 4 laws before Congress today that comprise liberty legislation, which, if enacted today, would change America from being ruled to an America where the people rule over their government. And this defines liberty, a diametrically opposed daily modus operandi of both government and finance. I would ask you to help spread the word about liberty legislation and liberty. You might even buy a copy of The Science of Liberty, American Reformation, or even New American Revolution. You might even buy a book and make a donation because trying to direct a revolution into a state of liberty in a mass media program is not overly expensive, but there are costs involved, and I would welcome your help. We've also created a crowdfunding program that you can see at www.gofundme.com/new-congress. Revolutions are very bad things. Everyone is invited and attendance is mandatory. So in the long run, you can look upon it as an investment in your future as well as the nation's. Then start calling your congressperson and senator and ask them where they stand on liberty legislation. Give them our website, scienceofliberty.us. You can get that link to both houses for contacts at electanewcongress.com by clicking on HM535. Again, you can go to electanewcongress.com, click on HM535, and there you will find the contact points for both the Senate and the House and the Congress of the United States of America. Then call every candidate from your state and ask them if they will support liberty legislation. If they say anything but yes, they just told you no. In which case, you go to the candidate running against them and ask them. Someone's going to say yes. Get 10,000 Americans calling each congressman or each senator saying, where do you stand on liberty legislation? Well, they're going to find out what liberty legislation is. And enough people say, are you for or against? Because I'm for, and if you're for, I'm for you. If you're against, I'm against you. Well, you get 10,000 calls. It'd be like a movement. It'd scare the hell out of Congress. And yes, they would join. Yes, they'd say yes. Yes, they'd say they'd support liberty legislation. Some may not. That's why we have elections. They have to come back to us. And then we take them out. Put in a new guy or a new woman that'll say, yes, I will support liberty legislation. I support the collective liberty of the people of the United States and everyone's personal freedom. You're only going to get that through the state of liberty, and that's what made America great in the first place. If you want to make America great again, the only way you're going to do it is a state of liberty. The only way Trump is going to be able to do it is a state of liberty. Nothing else will do. Nothing else will work. That's it. Period. Case closed. Discussion over. There is hope, America. Our goal is to free ourselves by embracing a state of liberty because we must rule ourselves as God meant us to be. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, William W. Faywell. Surf's up, America.